So when I started reading about transport, and particularly urban transport, I had the impression that many of the problems that we have at the moment we didn't actually need to have. It's just a matter of people actually putting the right policies into place. So I didn't think we've got too much to learn, we just need to implement it. It turns out from what I've been reading that that's largely the case, which is quite positive, because it means that what really needs to happen is there needs to be a lot more advocacy for sustainable transport, and that advocacy does have a good chance of winning because there's a lot of research on its side. Of course, you could say it hasn't won yet, so why is that? And one thing that's become obvious is that the roads lobby includes a large number of powerful companies, so you know, there's definitely an area of political power with auto companies and the road construction industry and so on. But one of the places that I found is as a really good source of information is the MIT website. That has open source courseware. You might have heard about this before, but basically anyone in the world who's got an internet connection can go along to the MIT website, and if they've got a course in it, then you can get all the lecture notes. So, you know, for one of the world's top universities, it's amazing to be able to do that. And one of the first notes on the MIT course on urban design and transport said something along the lines of, yes, obviously, I support transit. So that's where my heart is. That's the best sort of transit rather than private transport is the way to go. Then later on in the lecture notes, it pointed out how difficult this was and said, you know, you've got to make small steps and, you know, make sure those small steps are successful, etc. Basically reflecting the reality that in the United States, there's something like 85% of trips in cities are taken by car. So obviously there's a lot of interest groups who know that they've got a lot of public support. If you make anything a bit more tricky for a car and a bit easier for people who don't want to use a car, then you're going to have some problems. But I think the basic argument's been won in that regard. But things aren't you know, so simple. Transit is, in terms of implementing it, for policies and the infrastructure and institutions behind it, in terms of financing and financing and managing the road, the technical abilities, and a whole load of things you need, are not simple to achieve. And quite often things are set up against implementing forward-looking transit policies. And one area that was quite contentious at the moment is this competition between rail and bus rapid transit. So bus rapid transit is quite a new idea. The mayor of Curitiba in somewhere in South America, I'm guessing that's Brazil, I'm pretty sure that's Brazil, was actually an urban planner. So when he became mayor, he implemented this amazing basically a metro but above land, and they used buses. But the difference between a regular bus route is that you have stations, and it's not just, you won't stop anywhere on the road, and they're less frequent than regular bus stops. You pay before you get on. There's priority bus lanes, so it's not through mixed traffic. Basically, it's very modern, it's efficient, it's quick, it's built to the specification of a metro line, but it costs far less, there's very little infrastructure, and it's above ground, and these things have been spreading out all over the world, and it sounds brilliant. The basic problem with that is it's quite flexible. So, for example, one of the things I said is it's got priority, it's not running through mixed traffic. Now, it doesn't have to run through mixed traffic, but if there's a powerful car lobby, then they can, you know, lobby for those lanes to be open. And then all you've got is a regular slow bus service, and the capacity drops right down, and it's no use at all. Also, although you have less frequent stations in rail than with regular bus service, they're more frequent than with rail. and because they cost so little to build, there's every chance that they can move. There's not a sense of permanence. I think with rail, it's vastly more expensive, but the inflexibility of it means that it can be very useful in encouraging transit-based urban growth. So services start to appear around the train stations, and because it's quite obvious that that's where all the people walk every day. So you've got there's this effect called transit leverage, which means that if you move people from private transport, mainly cars, onto rail, you don't replace 1 mile of travel with 1 mile of travel. You replace 1 mile of travel with perhaps half a mile of travel. And this effect is because basically all the services learn, or figure out, where you're going to put your shop. You're going to put your shop as close as you can to the large number of people. So the services come to the people, which of course, so that's, I guess, one of the arguments in favour of rail. I think also the capacity can be higher if you've got an electrified rail service. You can get higher capacities than with bus rapid transit, but bus rapid transit, when implemented well, can be, pretty damn good, and for a small fraction of the price. I'd be interested if anyone happens to know anything about these two issues. Then obviously send me an email or something, because I'm still looking into this. Another thing is I decided to look up London's climate action plan, because I realised that Ken Livingstone had been quite progressive there and quite serious about climate change. And so I was interested in what proportion of the city's emissions were transport based, and in terms of land transport, it's around 20%. If you exclude aviation, it's about 20% of the city's total emissions is transport, which is, I think, a lot lower than the average city, but still quite significant. And in terms of UK relevance, that's about, I think it worked out as about around 1.5% of Britain's entire emissions are due to the transport in London. So put all Britain's cities together, and urban transport is looking quite significant. It's not huge, but it's quite significant. Obviously, it's, apart from climate change, it's more relevant to the communities who are living there, because most people live in cities. So it's strongly relevant to people's lifestyle. So I've just a book just arrived, which is more broadly on this sort of urban design and climate change, not just transport, but a whole range of buildings and everything else. So I'm just starting that. So I had a question: if anyone had any links to any PDFs or reports or books to buy on the capacity of bikeways and how you mix bikeways with roads and what sort of trade-offs there are. And basically, I found loads of good reports on bus rapid transit and quite a bit on rail. And I'm reading a book at the moment which has a lot about rail in it. But I'm really after something which covers bikes well. I mean, being a cyclist myself, I know, for example, in Mexico City, where they've done this a huge bus rapid transit system, they've also done a significant amount of cycleways along with it. But I'm just interested in how many people they carry, and just more about cycling in cities as well.